There we go. Okay. Apologies for the delay. Um, I literally just got home. It's been a long one to answer your question, Mr. Games Rules. Um, it was good though. I went out for breakfast with my mom. We went for a walk. I dug a very large, like 30 to 40 pound rock out of the ground by a walking path near where we live. It wasn't like a park, it was just like literally kind of a stream side sort of thing. I was just tossing rocks and she saw one that was like, this would look good for my flower bed. And I was like, alright, I'm gonna do it. And for the first time in like years and years, I just got down like digging with my hands and trying to unearth this rock. And after like half an hour I got it, but she had gone back to the cart to get like a shovel to help me out, and so I just carried it by on my own. And by that point she had actually driven off to like go pick me up. So it was pretty funny. After that I got home, showered off, got all the dirt off my hands and put my shirt in the washer machine. And then Allie wanted to hang out, so I went over with her. We went to Michael's and she got some art supplies, and we restocked her booze fridge, and we shared some drinks and watched a really good movie that I watched by myself the other night called People, Places, Things. It has Jermaine Clement in it, and it was just a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. So that has been my day. And then we rewatched the first episode of Venture Bros, which is beautiful. So now, I'm just kinda, I don't know. I had this desire to stream today. With all that happened, it's very late, so I don't expect this to be an especially busy stream, but, we'll see what happens. I don't actually know what else I have left to do. I think this file is actually pretty much, yeah, it looks more or less complete. I've gone to every area. It's on the last boss. We could do Chalice Dungeons. I don't know. Since you're the only one here right now, the choice is up to you. Do you want me to do Chalice Dungeons, or would you like me to go to my other character, Commissar Clar, and try and clear the DLC with her? Because I'd be totally cool doing the DLC as well. It's just, what you'd rather watch, I guess. And while you get whatever I just said from the delay, I'm sure it's like 10-20 seconds. This early on, it shouldn't be too bad, but either way, let me know what you think. I'll get my backpack unpacked. I literally kind of just sat down and was like, alright, turn on PS4 stream. Go for the dungeon? Alright, you got it, man. Actually won't be too bad. I've been away from the Chalice dungeons for a long time, so they're probably gonna feel a little fresher than maybe they would normally. Okay, computer's plugged in, so that won't flop out. Hold on. I just have to send something in my group chat. Everybody has named themselves Psychro and have the same profile picture as him now. So I just wanna make the joke even worse. Belvita breakfast biscuits. Oh yeah. If you haven't seen Rick and Morty, I highly recommend. Are my grandkids alive? Yes, I've been doing a few new paintings. Since I'm on PS4, I can't directly put them up for you, but if you'd like to peruse them, there's the link. And yeah, it's got everything. It kind of goes backwards from top to, or, well, not really, but, you know, top stuff is the newest, bottom stuff is the oldest. The Yithian is the most recent one that I've done, the large three-eyed creature. It's from Lovecraft's writings. Anyways, let's see. Let's make ourselves a chalice. Which ones do I have? I could make one of these. Oh no, more. Oh god. Actually, I left the Rick and Morty thing on and it started playing the song that Jermaine Clement, he plays Fart, this weird sentient cloud. He sings this song, Goodbye Moon Man, and it's beautiful. But yeah, the movie I recommended earlier, People, Places, Things, actually stars Jermaine Clement. He plays this father of two girls, and whole thing with his wife, and like, yeah, I don't want to say anything about the movie, but it was really good. I really liked it. And Jermaine, I just really love Jermaine. He's a great actor, folk singer, comedy type dude. He's not really like a proper comedian, but yeah. I'm just thinking between Lauren and Ease, because I like both pretty well. I think Lauren I like better for its design. I think I like Ease better for its boss selection. We'll do Ease. You know. Whatever, the night is young. We'll see how this turns out. It's such a weird texture. If you look at that, it's like split straight down the middle. Looks like a H.R. Giger alien egg, kind of. A little more gapey. You have seen all of Rick and Morty. You like deep contemplation? Yeah, I appreciate it. That was one where I was like really trying to focus on blending colors and trying to work with like one overarching kind of tone, or you know, with the blue of the ocean. And I also experimented with like using a toothbrush to get a texture for like the sandy bottom of the you know, the base of the ocean, and that turned out all right. That was a cool sort of experimental thing. And I also used like the diving suit that you see there is actually based on a real kind of old style diving suit, which I thought I just thought it looked neat, so I put it in there. I don't think password matching matters for invasions, but I'm gonna turn it off anyways. I don't know, in case somebody might want to join me. If anybody feels like joining me, I actually didn't look at the chalice glyph. Oh, hi guys. But I can certainly come back, or go back out, and look it up for you. Be happy to do some co-op, or even be invaded by people. You know, I'm footloose and fancy free. Or at least as footloose and fancy free as you can be at 1:10 in the morning. I will have to remain a little bit quiet, but either way. Ah. Just deal with those now. Oh. Probably doomed. Very damn blood gems. Yeah, I feel like loot... Ow! I feel like loot could certainly have been done a little better than chalices. I mean, to some extent, maybe not that much better, but maybe a little bit better. It's not enough unique stuff, and it gets very repetitive. I was watching Slow Beef's video that he just uploaded of the Chalice Dungeon with the bosses, and he mentions it gets very repetitious, and I'm like, you know, not just him, most people really kind of commented that the problem with them was that they get very repetitious, and there's certainly a lot of truth to that. But hey, you know, like, the combat of the game itself is solid enough, it really got me through enjoying them to some extent at least, you know. More Bloodborne is not a bad thing, it's just, without that level design, it really does show that Miyazaki's attention to detail and level design is just as important. You can't really fill that in with a roguelike or procedural generation system. You gotta have that, you know, that basis of, like, environment to ground you and immerse you. That's something I feel like, you know, every element of a video game is important, not just the gameplay, not just the graphics or anything like that. Like, the music of a game matters just as much to me as the level design, as much as the story itself, how it's told, as much as if the game is fun. And, like, you can kind of weigh those things differently. Like, if in a game like Alien Soldier, it has a plot, the plot's really silly. It has music, the music's, you know, hit or miss. Some of it's really good, some of it's a little just kind of slapped in. But the gameplay is incredible. And in the Souls games, I feel like it's certainly, from game to game it varies, but a lot of them really knock it out of the park on the immersiveness of each area, and also a lot of attention to detail on the composition of a lot of the music. The gameplay usually feels really tight. They're just these beautiful kind of perfect balances of all these things I love about games. And music really is like a huge thing to me. I'm not like well versed in music or anything. I don't have any musical compositional training or anything. I really love me some good, you know, well put together and orchestrated tracks, and I feel like Bloodborne excels at that. I'm just sitting here discussing game design while I kill horrible alien babies. That's how we do it. And we got a Great One's Wisdom. That probably could have been a Blood Rock, but, or maybe not, I don't know. I feel like when they give you Great One's Wisdom, like, it's just saying, hey, you already got a Blood Rock, but I actually never got a Blood Rock, like, in this specific chalice, so it's weird. The whole system, actually, to getting Blood Rocks is weird. People say you can get it, like, once per area, but I've tried many different areas and many different glyphs from many different people, and I've never gotten more than, like, 1, maybe 2 Blood Rocks per playthrough, anyways. Scott Pilgrim game is pretty good, yeah. And yeah, Slow Beef's been around a lot longer than I have, actually. Like, he's been around before YouTube, obviously. He did threads back in the day of, like, he did a screenshot LP of Metal Gear 2, and I think that was his first thing. If not, The Immortal was definitely one of his early ones. But he did those back, like, well before YouTube. It was more like early days of Something Awful, I think. Maybe not early days, but yeah. Yeah, Scott Pilgrim game. That was a weird situation, actually. That's gone. You know, you can't buy it anymore. Is that right? Like, if I remember... if I remember, they released the online connectivity DLC. You could pay like $5. You got that, and you could play Scott's roommate. I forget his name. Wallace something Wallace. I don't know. But it looked like a really cool character, and like I finally kind of thought about getting it like months afterwards, and I tried to look it up on the store and it was nowhere. And yeah, you can't, like I was saying, like they removed it from the store, and which is really a shame. I'm not even sure like why they removed it from the store, if it was like some licensing issue or Ubisoft just being dumb. I would believe that. I mean, Ubisoft has shown their capacity in the past to not be the most intelligent AAA game company out there. Like, I don't know, I feel like there are parts of their studio that put out really incredible games. Like, I played Valiant Hearts, I think it's called, and that was really well done. I really enjoyed that game. It was like a narrative on World War I. And what else? Like as far as edutainment type games go, it was really well put together. And then you have stuff like Watch Dogs that were like this huge hyped up thing, like their next big project, and then it was really underwhelming for everybody who played it. I didn't play it myself, but I saw enough gameplay to be like, this is, yeah, maybe a neat concept, but certainly not the execution that they were kind of boasting. And then you have stuff that you really want them to do, like, you know, more Rayman games are never a bad thing. You also have, like, Beyond Good and Evil 2. Like, when are we gonna get that, if ever? I don't think we're ever gonna get that. It's just, they make weird decisions. I always find it kind of weird when you kill them, their head kind of pops into more of an octopus shape, but they either have a hood on before that point, or they have like a squid top. And it's even weirder because when they suck your insight out, like they dip their fin into your brain, that thing gets engorged, their like squid thing, but then it disappears when they die and they just have a rounded octopus head. Very confusing. And yeah, like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World would be great on Steam if they did like a Game of the Year version. Again, I don't know what the situation was that made them take it off the PlayStation Store in the first place, but it just seemed unnecessary, you know. It's one of those games you should really just go keep around, because it's good shit. There we go. Yeah, back when I was first playing through the Chalice dungeons, I was being such a completionist that after I got the root chalices, which weren't even new dungeons, they were just the same dungeon but randomized, I played through those as well, just to, like, I guess to grind for materials, and also so I could say that I did every single one. So I'd do every single one, and then I'd put it away once I was finished with it, and that made these take like double or triple the time. Because then I'd also go back through the fixed dungeons, because I found out I had missed a set drop in one of them, like just a rune or something I wouldn't even use, and I'd be like, yeah, I gotta get that. So I was maybe just a little obsessive about trying to get, you know, everything possible, or explore everything possible. It's not open from this side. Guess we'll come back through here soon. GameStop's website. Yeah, that's what I was actually wondering a little while ago, is like maybe you can get a physical copy, even though digital copies are gone off the PlayStation Store. But then you also got stuff like Konami's PT that they took off the store, and that, you know, I still have that on my PS4. I'm keeping that, obviously, but I think that was funny. I was watching a video from Lotax's Gaming Garbage channel, and he mentioned that he has that on his PS4, and that, you know, because of that, his PlayStation 4 is worth a lot of money. I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know off the top of my head how much you could get one for, but I mean, I'm a fan of Silent Hill anyways, so PT was kind of a cool thing to me, and I don't think I'd sell my PS4, you know. I kind of like having this rarity. You know, I'm more of a collector of stuff than a seller of rare things. So, it's something to cherish, you know. I think we happened upon the return point here. Let me just take care of the spellcaster. Ow! Oh, guys, stop. I'm Mr. B6, look at me! Ooh-wee! Make sure you're squaring your shoulders, Jerry! That's still like one of my favorite Bloodborne videos. Mr. Bloodborne, look at me. Contorted for PC. Yes, I absolutely agree with you. Peculiar Kindler. That's a Dark Souls 2 invader, isn't it? I dig the name. But it would be much more bearable if it was universal. Especially if, you know, in a lot of cases you just want to get the Beast Claw. Like, that's kind of the primary thing, is if somebody's doing a Beast Claw build, nobody really wants to have to suffer through all of the Chalice dungeons just to get there. I like to imagine those urns are just filled with incense. Just like an excessive... Oh, Jesus. Excessive amount of incense. Billowing clouds of smoke. And you get in your face, just like... I mean, usually it would be pleasant, but Jesus Christ, that's just too much. It's too much Chalice dungeons. That's actually a perfect analogy for Chalice dungeons. You know, if you're burning a little stick of incense, it's like, oh, this is nice. You know, it adds a little mood to this beautiful room that I'm in. And then suddenly there's just this whole friggin' brazier full of, just full of incense clouds puffing out, and it's just killing you and killing your lungs. You're like, please stop, please. That's Chalice dungeons. If you had like a few of them, if you just had a quick series of like, if it did Thumeru, Hintertombs, what's it called, Ailing Lauren, and then Ease, I'd be totally fine if it just did those, like, one of each. But the fact that they do like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 in the case of Thumeru of each, and then they also have the root chalices, and then they also have the sinister chalices. Like, I get they were doing a random generation thing, and it was a way to get more loot and put whatever wasn't fit into the base game into these dungeons, but it just adds too much randomness, and yet at the same time so much pre-organized stuff that it loses its charm very quickly. And the first time through, you know, like, that's okay, that's whatever, but if you start playing through it with a second character, it just fades away very quickly. And this is me after having not played one for a very long time. Ooh, cool. I like this boss. Oh god, what was he doing there? He kind of like hovered in the sky and then just descended onto the floor. Yeah, I like the Thumerian bosses, just because they feel fairly unique, especially the Elder. This guy I'm kind of whatever about, but... I think I just got a call on my phone. I'll check it after I die, or whatever happens on here. You know, usually on this guy I just focus more parrying. It's just he's very fast. He does tend to swing over your head a lot, though, if you're in the right position. Like, not there. Oh. Jeez. Hi. God. He just swings for days. This is a little annoying how often he does attack. Like, you can see with his... how slowly he initiates that first swing. They kind of want you to visceral attack him, but... I don't know. There we go. If I could get the timing down, I was gonna say, but... you got it. But then... he does his little switcheroo, transforms his weapon, which makes things a little more scary. Yeah, he gets a lot more aggressive. Oh god. And the amount of damage that does is just crazy. Hello there. I'll take that, if you don't mind. He has this great attack where he actually he throws his sickles at you. I'll see if I can trigger it. I don't really know. Oh, there it is. But it's so amazing because if you don't move too far in one direction, he'll completely miss on both because he throws them out to each side of you. I think that's a really cool little detail because you kind of panic, but if you panic too much, then it punishes you actually. Just kill him with a little shot. A little 50 damage in the arm. It looked like I just hit him in the arm. I didn't even hit him anywhere vital. Just let him out. Alright. But yeah, that's a fairly enjoyable boss. I definitely like the Elder more, I'll say that, but it's good stuff. Computer keeps on going into rest mode. It's not charging. There we go. I have a weird thing. I think the internal part of my charger for my laptop might be getting frayed, because that's what happened with my last laptop. The plug is very loose in the computer, and you think, you know, like if it comes out easier, it won't fray it as much or whatever, but it seems like it's still kind of... it's gotten to this point where if the plug is in the slot backwards, or like, you know, with the line, the wire facing backwards away from the back of the computer, it doesn't charge. But if it's facing, if you know, the wire coming out is facing towards you, towards the front of the computer, then it charges fine. So like I actually have to manipulate the direction even if it's plugged in to get it to charge. You know, it has to be the right way, which is a little frustrating. I think, you know, coming up in the future, I'm gonna invest in like a good gaming desktop and just keep that for home use. And then if I have like personal work, or if I'm just using it for browsing the internet or streaming like I am right now, I'll just have like a really small, like very portable netbook, so I'll have internet access if I need, but I'll just keep my gaming stuff at home. It seems like a smarter decision. And I could still do like, you know, small games like Binding of Isaac or something while I'm out, but more intensive stuff, like, you know, if I want to play Dark Souls, or if I want to play, I don't know, anything that's more demanding, I just use a desktop. My friends always tell me I should like build a desktop, but I have no idea how all that stuff works, so I'd have to have somebody guide me through the process, you know, whenever that day comes. Hopefully not soon. I'd like to keep this laptop for another year or so. Maybe 2, if I can manage. But it's definitely getting that point of being frustrating. You know, I've gone through enough laptops over the years. I'm kind of done with them. If you know, it's kind of the standard lifetime for me. Because I do use them so much. It's not really a matter of like I don't take good care of it. I could certainly, you know, like manage it better, like turn it off when I'm not using it and all that, but I don't know. I spend a lot of time using it anyways, so yeah. The best base game boss. You could put that a few different ways, or at least I could answer a few different ways, is what I mean. Because depending on the terms in which we are speaking, be it like music or design, gameplay, there are different bosses that I prefer. I'll say design-wise, like artistically, I really love fighting Ibrietas. She's probably like one of my favorite bosses in the entire series. And I guess if we're talking base game, that doesn't count DLC either, so I'll keep those bosses out. Because the DLC really introduced some of my favorite bosses too. Like, that's kind of been a standard for Souls games, is when the DLC comes out, they always introduce something that ups the ante from everything else in the game. Like, consistently they've done that, and that's something I have to say is very impressive that FromSoft has been able to manage. But, yeah, I really love Ibrietas. I don't know if I like her best in gameplay. It's a possibility. You know, like, I do actually enjoy fighting that boss, but I feel like there might be more entertaining bosses out there. Technically speaking, it's base game. I really like the gameplay of the I think Accursed. No, not Accursed. It's something that starts with an A. It's actually in the message system. If I run away here, I'm just gonna run out of the room so I can check the message system. Or it's in here. There we go. Notebook, great note, templates. Abhorrent Beast. Sorry, I just remembered it without even getting to it, but it's Abhorrent Beast. The Abhorrent Beast, I'm a big fan of gameplay-wise. It was really frustrating when I fought the souped-up version in the Chalice dungeons, but that was in the Loran dungeons. But I really did like just all of the elements of fighting that boss. It feels like a very fair boss, but a very challenging boss. Like, he takes these fake out jabs at you, like, you don't think he's gonna reach you, but suddenly he sends out a punch that hits, like, so much further than you would think it could. And he's got a lot of deceptive tactics that just feel very engaging. It's a really engaging fight. So gameplay-wise, I'd say Abhorrent Beast. Design-wise, I'd say Ibrietas. If we were gonna get into, like, music quality of a boss fight, there's one that I have a really big soft spot for, even though I don't like the boss itself that much. The one Reborn has this really incredible part in its vocals. You know, like, the build-up, the whole song is basically build-up, but once it gets into the actual content of the music, like, it just ramps things up so quickly, and I really love that one part of the song. Still, though, I'd say overall, if you had to have me choose between those, I think Ibrietas would win in terms of gameplay, design, and soundtrack, because, you know, she kind of has the best of everything. Well, not the best of everything, but, like, the most balanced out quality of everything. There's a moment in her second phase, or I feel like it's not scripted to be this way, but it just always feels this way. There's this part where the song just peaks, like it hits the most intense moment, and, you know, oh god, not again. But it hits the most intense moment, and, you know, the vocals are just kind of all the way up there, and everything's very epic and, you know, awe-inspiring. And right as the music hits this ultimate moment, Ibrietas raises her arms, and she basically spawns this. Do I have it? I don't have it out right now. Let me grab it real quick. She casts a souped up version of this miracle, or not miracle, but this attack. So she basically does that right as the music peaks, and it's just an incredible moment to me. And I don't think it's necessarily scripted, but I feel like the way that her attack cycle goes, it almost always hits just as the music starts getting to this most exciting moment. And I love the clarity and like the connection between the song, her moveset, and her design, and just everything fits together so well in that moment. I really enjoy it. So, yeah. Make a really, really long story / explanation short. Ibrietas is my favorite boss. And yeah, Ibrietas' charge attack is not very nice. I can understand that perspective. It's not a very easy thing to get used to. I've just kind of gotten to this point of like, I know where to stand. Like, I always stand at this midpoint where she won't do her melee, but if she does one thing, it's either going to be the charge attack, or it's going to be like this headbutt attack where she lifts up her head, lurches forward, and smashes it into the ground. Because if she smashes her head into the ground, her head is her weak point, so you get a couple free hits in because she takes so long to recover. It's like her safest attack to attack during. So I always wait for that, and I try and stay at mid-range. But if she starts going for the charge, I'll start immediately running back, and then I'll just keep dodging to the side for as long as I can. And sometimes she'll still manage to land a glancing blow, but usually I manage to avoid it. And a lot of that fight, too, is just handling the amount of space you have behind you. In the fight itself, even though the arena feels really big, it's actually kind of small for how much movement she does. I feel like one of the Chalice dungeon versions where you fight her just in this small chamber. It's like literally just kind of a circular half donut shaped chamber. There's interestingly it's a lot easier to maneuver around, you know. I don't know why, maybe it's just my personal feel. It might not technically be true, but I had an easier time fighting Ibrietas in the Chalice dungeons than I did in the base game. She gave me a lot of trouble in the base game my first time around, but it could also just be that I spent enough attempts in the base game failing that by the time I got to her in the Chalice dungeon, I knew her well enough that like I didn't need to spend those hours, put in those hours I don't know, reassociating all of her moves with what I should react with. I just kind of knew. Stay at mid-range, wait for the headbutt attack, and always keep an eye out on that charge attack. And usually you'll be alright. And yeah, it's kind of rules that I've always gone by for that fight. And even though I know a lot of people are frustrated when they get to it, it's become a fight that I've really enjoyed. I think that thing happens a lot with Souls bosses, even like especially Dark Souls 2 bosses. You get into Dark Souls 2 and you have to deal with a lot of very nasty and very heavily damaging bosses. You know, Sir Alon, the Fume Knight Rame, all these guys, and you know, you end up spending a lot of time with them, but by spending a lot of time with them, you really intimately learn their movesets and what's safe, what isn't. And that kind of becomes like a main mechanic, you know. Yes, it is kind of butting your head against the wall a lot, and that's really not helped by the fact that certain bosses like Suralon are behind like really irritating walls of enemies that, you know, drain all your Estus on the way there, or if you try and run past them, have a good chance of killing you while you're trying to run away from them. A lot of frustrating elements like that. And, you know, that's really where a lot of the flaws in Dark Souls 2 do come to light. But for what it's worth, the game still had some really amazing boss fights. I still consider Suralon a pretty beautifully put together fight. Like I was talking about with Ibrietos, the music is great. The boss fight, although it does kind of have a bullshitty grab attack with the sword stab, is still pretty entertaining and like a tense fight with this expert, you know, swordsman. And the design of Alon himself, like, he kind of helped make the old Iron King. So where he fits into the plot and, you know, his design, how he kind of carries himself, even down to, like, if you manage to get a flawless victory against him somehow, I don't know how people do that, but if you manage to do that, the game plays a special animation where he offs himself, he performs a ritual sacrifice and, like, actually, I hate these rats, but he disembowels himself with his sword. It's like, shit, man, that's intense. But, like, so yeah, he's interesting from, like, a cultural standpoint of, like, where his character's from, more eastern land. He's, like, the quintessential sort of katana-wielding dude in a Souls game. And I think that's pretty solid. I think that's pretty cool. I'll say from a lore perspective, and also from, like, I think I like Fume Knight more overall of the two of them, but I don't know. I'm citing these examples entirely from the old Iron King DLC. I really feel that was the most quality, like, all around all of the DLCs that came out. That said, for all of the flack that Ivory King gets, is the least favorite of a lot of people, I'd say Sunken King is probably my least favorite. The one part I really loved about Sunken King, the level design did take things in a very good direction, but, like, the location itself I'm kind of about the more I played through it. I really liked Sin, and that's gonna sound weird to a lot of people, because a lot of people actually didn't like Sin because he spent most of his time flying around in the air. This is a very, you know, drawn-out boss fight. But what I find is that, in spite of how much flying around he does, I feel like that's what more dragon bosses in Souls games should do. Like, so many of them in Dark Souls 2's base game just sit there and let you wail away at their toes while you're, like, you know... It's just waiting for them to get on the ground. Like, Guardian Dragon, I'd say, is even worse than Sin, because at least Sin is flying around, he's charging towards you, you know, he glides along the ground or shoots a fireball. The Guardian Dragon literally just perches itself up on top of the cage, blasts fire over 80% of the arena, and it's really frustrating. Like, I don't like fighting the Guardian Dragon. On the other hand, sorry, he was twitching, I thought he was still alive. On the other hand, Sin is really active, and he's very energetic, is like this, you know, still damaged by the spear through his gut, but, like, this dragon who either intentionally or unintentionally blasted poison on this entire city and killed basically everyone because the Drake Blood Knights came and fucked everything up. Like, I think that's pretty cool. I like Sin. But, yeah, getting back to it, Raim I thought was really cool, the connection between him and a base game piece of lore with Velstadt and what happened between them and their relationships to Vendrick and all that stuff. You know, it's all this multi-layered stuff that's just very fascinating. Like, Dark Souls 2 did the lore fairly well. You know, I have to say that. It did an okay job. It wasn't perfect. Really not a lot of things about Dark Souls 2 are perfect, but Dark Souls 1 also has its share of kind of things that it gets flack for, or, you know, deserves flack for. I'd say the latter half of Dark Souls 1 really does get a little tedious. Certain elements, especially a lot of Lost Izalith, can be a bit of a drag, you know. So. Ooh, damn, that hit. Sorry, just gonna jab myself. File. Gotcha. Is there anything else I wanted to bring up? Oh, I think I was getting to what I loved about Ivory King. Oh, nice, Thumerian Elder. This is weird, we're getting all these Thumerian bosses in Ys. I think we'd be getting more, like, Celestial Emissary and stuff, but I guess not. Anyways, yeah, Ivory King. The Burnt Ivory King fight at... Whoa! Through the wall. That flame crossbow. So intense. But, at the very ending, you know, despite all of the problems with, with the Lamb Lois and a lot of stuff like that, I think they brought a really interesting character with Alsana being, like, this sympathetic daughter of Manus. Oh shit, I'm out of blood vials. This is bad. I think I'm gonna retreat. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna happen with no blood vials. I went through 2, 3, no, it was 2, this is the second, but I went through 2 layers, so I'm gonna go back and take a short break. But the entrance of the Ivory King, not even the fight before it, which is a little frustrating, especially if you haven't collected the Lois Knights, that's essentially required, but... You know, the Burnt Ivory King, the gates coming up and forming this, like, big, essentially Oblivion gate, and he comes through it on this burning path, this burning carpet, his red carpet. It's just so amazingly choreographed, I guess, or it's a very cinematic intro, you know, for a Souls boss, and that's an element I really love about that fight. Otherwise, yeah, I'd say Ivory King made the most mistakes of all of them, especially with the challenge route. The challenge route was just a horrible mess, but, you know, what can you do in the end? Oh yeah, with Sarlon's boss room, it really is just that beautifully waxed floor. I like to imagine that aside from just sitting there waiting for you, he spends all of his time just buffering the floor out to be perfect and shiny. The Gank Squad is the best boss fight. And yeah, probably my favorite part of Sunken King, like you were saying, Mr. Games Rules, is that this feeling when you're going into these kind of ancient temple structures, like they are almost like these sort of ziggurat-like structures. I love the feeling of being inside of those and kind of exploring this. It feels kind of Indiana Jones-ish in a really silly way, but it has this alluring aspect to it of discovering this long-forgotten kingdom, you know, Shulva, the Sanctum City. It's a really cool area, but certain parts I wasn't, like, as fond of. I think one part I really love about the Sunken King DLC is, shit, I forgot her name. Oh no. Fuck! Okay, I'm not dead yet. That's always scary. Getting set up for a parry, you're like, how much is this gonna kill me? But, Adella, Nishandra, Alsana, and... It's not Amelia. It's something with an E, I feel like. Sanctum City boss. Shulva Sanctum City. What the hell's her name? It's horrible. She's the only one I don't remember, because I really do hate the first boss of Shulva. She's pretty awful. Boss fight, Dragon Sanctum. Did I just see map? Let's go to Dragon Sanctum. Ah, this will tell me, I think. Somebody probably commented already, but I'm stubborn at this point. Does it even talk about the boss? Dragon's Rest? Come on. I cannot find her. This wiki really sucks. Did anybody put it in the comments? The butt faces of the giants. Yeah, I was okay with them having, like, buttholes for faces. See, what I always found hilarious about the giants was that they're only... Oh, Alana, that's her name. Alana the Squalid Queen. I love the lead up to her boss, that throughout your exploration of the main temple type structure, you can hear her singing, I guess to, you know, quell Sin's, you know, angry time or whatever, but I love that part. I'm not as fond of her boss fight. I feel like her boss fight is probably one of my least favorite in the entire game. Even more so than the Congregation, and I know that's pretty horrible, but I don't know. I feel like she summons additional mobs to the fight in the worst way possible. Like, back before the DLC, I used to think it was awful that the Lost Sinner summoned in 2 additional Pyromancers, and it's still kind of annoying. But summoning in 5 skeletons multiple times, or I guess it's only like 3 or 4, but doing that and then just spamming you with projectile magic just feels really frustrating for the sake of being frustrating. So I'm not as big of a fan of that. Whoops. Oh, teleporting all over. Hi. Ow. Ah. Oh, come on. Not getting my viscerals very well. Ah. Come on. I want another visceral. Give me a visceral. Oh, phase 2 now. I do really love this boss, though. Just a cool design. He reminds me a little bit of, oh shit. He reminds me of Logarius, Martyr Logarius, in some ways, with like the sight that he forms out of fire, and then getting those little slashes in the air. Oh my god. I also love that he's just constantly switching weapon types. If you could somehow get his, like, fire rod staff thing that just summons everything. Even that levitating attack is a lot like Martyr Logarius. Ooh, jeez. Spontaneous combustion is fun. Good thing I brought in 20 blood vials, right? Jesus. It's a little over the top. I really suck at this boss, using that many. Where'd he go? Oh god. Camera will not center. Oh, if I got him on that, that would have been great. Oh! Come on, man. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I was so close. Alright, take care, Mr. Games Rules. Have a good night. I think I'll finish this dungeon and then I'm gonna call it a night. You know, it's really just meant to be a quiet stream, so excuse me. We'll keep it as that. I wonder how long this has taken even. I think I started, yeah, around like probably 1 if not a little before. So just do it as a 2-hour stream. I could just upload this whole thing, one part to YouTube. Because I think it would fit on YouTube. I don't think YouTube's giving me trouble with longer streams I've uploaded. Ouch. Why? You are a dick. Okay. Hey, buddy. Where's my blood stain? There it is. Just want to take care of that business now. Ah, my timing is so bad. So, other films I've been watching. I went on kind of a Netflix binge the other day because my internet wasn't working for the weirdest reason. Like, a driver, I guess, had been updated and I didn't realize it. But the driver update happened to just make all of my connections permanently limited. So I could still see all my networks and connect all of them, but I couldn't actually do anything on them. I couldn't connect to the internet. So I had to roll back the driver and it worked fine. I don't know why that happened, but it did. But I fixed it. Eventually I kind of just, you know, fell onto the problem. I was like, alright, I can do this. And, yeah. But anyways, what I was saying, oh jeez, maybe I should focus on the boss fight. I was watching a lot of movies in the past, like, few days, and some really good ones, some decent ones, at least in some aspects, and then, you know, probably the most definite kind of like, this was very movie I saw was called Valhalla Rising, and it wasn't even terrible, it was just very artsy. It's like, it had a relatively coherent plot and all that. Probably the best part was just Mads Mikkelsen, because Mads Mikkelsen is kind of a cool guy from what I've seen in all the roles he's played. In this one, he doesn't have any lines, he just plays this silent protagonist with one eye who's like a slave to this, I guess. There's like all these nomadic tribes, and they have these dudes fight each other for, you know, money and all that, so they have their slaves fight to the death, and he's one of the warriors, but he's like he's very good at it, and he kills all the dudes who he comes up against. But one time when he's, you know, being transported, he kills all the dudes, but the child of the tribe survives, so he takes him with him or lets him follow him, and they end up meeting with these Catholic dudes, and the Catholic dudes are going to Jerusalem. But then they get lost on their way to Jerusalem, and they're gonna like kill the boy. And he's like, "Nah, fuck you. If you try and kill the boy, I'm gonna mess you up." And then things happen, and they don't find Jerusalem. Instead, they find some other crazy place. It goes places, you know. Like, there's definitely movement in the plot, and things happen. So it wasn't bad. It's just everything is portrayed in a very dreamlike state. So, you know, it's not really the type of narrative that everybody would be into, you know, it's not for everyone, certainly. And I don't know that I loved it, but it was okay. So Valhalla Rising was probably the most and that was the first one that I watched. After that, I watched an Austrian-German directed film called The Dark Valley, and it was basically a Western. It started out kind of interestingly. It plays itself off much more as like a thriller, and things seem kind of clear that something's going on that's weird with the main character, but I really liked the way the movie flowed, and that it turned into a more Western-feeling movie by the second act was like, I really liked that, you know? I think they did it well. As a Western, I think it succeeded, and the overall plot was like, hey, this is actually, you know, this is kind of cool. I kind of like this character and this whole dynamic that's going on and the conflict. Like, it all just felt pretty solid. Yeah, I heard you trying to sneak up on me with your pit-pattering feet. Get the hell out of here. So, let me recall what else I watched. I watched It's a Beautiful Day, I think it's called. It was a Don Hertzfeldt animation. It was just 16 minutes. These are all on Netflix, by the way. Or at least they are, as of when I'm recording this. So if you want to give them a shot yourself, they're all pretty much available. I think that was the next thing I watched, though. It was a Don Hertzfeldt animation, which was really cute. It's kind of about, you know, the future, and like it gets in all this stuff about cloning and very sci-fi sort of a setup, but it's this girl's third generation clone talking to herself, her original version, Emily Prime. And Emily Prime's like 6 years old, so she's like completely not understanding all of this jibber jabber, like techno babble that her clone is telling her about the future. But it still has some good moments to it. I liked it overall. I saw Circle, which got really terrible reviews. It was like one quarter of a star, according to Netflix, and it wasn't great. Like, it definitely showed its limitations. I feel like it was probably an independently made film, or like more independent studio film. If it was, like, I can appreciate it more so. I don't remember it being hyped up at all, so it certainly didn't deserve like 5 stars or even 4, but like I think I ended up rating it like a 3, just because it is a very simple concept. I felt like they could have done a lot more with it. Basically, the concept is a bunch of people wake up in a room that's circularly shaped, and every minute or two, one person dies. At first, it's random, but then they learn they can actually move these little arrows on the floor that only they can see. Each individual person sees their own kind of user interface in this circle. And then there's this big kind of like, you know, those covered camera, just black half-orb balls. There's one of those in the center of the room, and it has these electric jolts that it zaps people with and kills them. So people end up starting to vote on each other. At first it's like, alright, let's kill the old people first, and you know, this kind of douchey guy's like, yeah, we'll kill people based on age, and the old people are like, hey, kind of fuck this. So after like 3 or 4 old people get killed, they're like, no, let's not just kill the old people. And it kind of goes through, it's very discussion based because it only takes place in one room. You know, it's going through each of these people where, you know, there's discussion on who should be sacrificed next, or why somebody should live on and have a chance to escape this thing. And they start to understand there's probably only going to be one person to escape. And early on they're discussing, like, you know, let's try and find a way out of this, or let's try and find a way to break this thing, or whatever. They really don't ever do that. It just goes... I know it's kind of spoilery, but I don't know. It kind of becomes apparent very early on that there's only going to be like 1, maybe 2 survivors, so I wouldn't consider that super spoiler. It's going to go down to, you know, 2 people in the end. Something's gonna happen. But I feel like the fact that that just becomes the whole build-up, it feels like maybe a wasted opportunity, and after that the movie almost tries to go somewhere else with it, but really just concludes it there. And there was kind of this unnecessary montage of all the stuff that happened over the course of the movie that was like, this doesn't seem like it needs to be here, I wish something else was here. So it wasn't great, you know. That's why I said it wasn't really worth like 4 stars. I didn't love it or even really like it a whole lot, but I did like it, because what it had the opportunity to do is, like, you put these people in this room and deal with a life or death situation that people are essentially voting on who goes. It gets very interesting with, you know, how people's true colors show and how different topics of what makes somebody worthy of living, you know, what that really entails. Because it even talks regarding, like, you know, there are these people who believe based on, you know, your religion or based on your sexuality or based on your race, like, that you're more or less worth saving. And you know, to the movie's credit, the people who were douchebags did usually end up getting killed because people realized you're a douchebag. So, and then it gets like a mob mentality towards the end where it's split between 2 groups. Basically, one of the central elements of the film is you have like this 9-year-old girl and then a pregnant woman, and they're right next to each other, and you're like, oh, these are the 2 that are going to be the big conflict of, we can't kill a pregnant woman carrying a child, and we can't kill a child herself who's, you know, like, barely had a chance to really live her life. And so it gets into, you know, half of the party is trying to protect these people, and the other half to preserve themselves or trying to kill them off early so it doesn't come down to them and these other people have a better chance of surviving, you know. And so they're almost, you know, like stacking numbers of statistics of like, you know, if we have 7 more people, or if we have 7 people total in the group, then we can, you know, outweigh these guys. And like, so there was definitely a lot that they covered in this very small environment of a film. And for that reason, like, I feel like I'm glad the movie exists. I feel like it had a purpose to be made. Maybe it could have been done better, but still not terrible, you know. With a very limited, more independent sort of setup, it was a neat movie. But there were certainly more things that probably could have been explored. Some of the dialogue was a little like, that's kind of silly, or like, you know, things they bring up or don't bring up. It's like, why are they bringing this up, or why aren't they bringing this element of, like, you know, we could escape, or we could try and experiment with another thing, or I don't know. So I spent a long time discussing Circle. But that was probably one of the more interesting ones I saw. Maybe not good interesting, but just it made me think interesting, and for that I think it has some value. Another movie I watched was The Awakening. It was alright, like, it was shot very well, the characters were neat, but the plot line felt kind of like wavy. Like, it led to something in the end, but I just wasn't sure if, like, the ending was like that satisfying or even conclusive to like a satisfying degree. So Awakening, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about it. It's about this woman who is like a ghost hoax debunker type person. She goes to this boarding school where apparently there was like this these kids have been reporting a ghost, and one kid recently died, apparently from fright or something, and so she goes to basically figure out what happened to the kid and if there is any merit to the whole haunting situation. And kind of the rest is just, you know, over the course of the movie revealed. It just feels like, I think the last kind of part of it was a little rushed and maybe a little too, like, you know, coincidental, like, oh my god, this was meant to be, like, more like, oh my god, this was written in the script as a twist. And, yeah. So that one was so-so. Um, After that, I forget what I watched after that. I think I started watching I watched The Office. I watched the first episode of the US version and also the UK version. I checked out the first episode. I like the US version a little better. I don't have a lot to say about the show itself other than it was pretty funny and I'd watch more of it, but I think the cast, the acting, I hate these things. Just teleports you to a random point in the dungeon, and they're just really stupid. Okay, yeah, they twitch so weirdly. Doesn't it look like he's getting up? That's really creepy. But, yeah, I like the acting better. I like some of the timing of the humor better in the US version. Yeah, so... And I'm pretty sure, like it said, the US version of The Office lasted like 8 seasons, whereas UK only got 2. And I could see just from the first episode kind of why. Even though the UK version set up a lot of basically the script and a lot of similar stuff, I feel like the US version had the advantage of being able to refine the timing of those scripts and make everything work out, you know, just the right way and, you know, hone everything to be a little bit better. That was weird. So I watched that. Then I watched H.R. Giger's documentary. It was called Dark Star. But yeah, it's a documentary on H.R. Giger, his life, his art, and all this different stuff. And he was a fascinating guy, you know, dealing with these night terrors and kind of turning that into this artistic outlet. It's really kind of respectable, and he certainly comes from a dark place, so, you know, I don't know how approachable he really seems to me, or did seem to me, you know, rest in peace. but H.R. Giger documentary was cool. Getting to see a lot of his art and hear people talk about him as a person, just, it was fascinating. And he lived a very fascinating life, you know. Dealt with a lot of dookie. Anyways, so it was cool. And then probably my favorite out of everything I watched, except for maybe Dark Valley. Dark Valley was also really, really good. But People, Places, Things is what it's called. It's with Jermaine Clement. He plays as this father of 2 girls. He just divorced his wife. The movie starts with them, like, you know, divorcing because she was cheating on him, and then goes into a year afterwards and him spending time with his kids on the weekends and trying to get more time with them. And he's a graphic artist, so he's like a comic book artist. And he teaches at a school, that's his job, and how he gets his pay and all that. But, it was just, of the films that I watched, it was the most, like, genuinely kind of emotional, and I felt, you know, very connected to the characters. Jermaine did a really good job in the role that he played, and, you know, it did a nice job portraying, like, just human interaction, dealing with relationships, and especially with his kids. Some of the sweetest moments in the movie were just, you know, him playing with his kids and spending time with them, and, you know, he really cares about them. You can see just through what goes on and all that, and also you see the hardships that he deals with. So I felt that was a really solid one. I really, really liked it. So yeah, that's the movies I watched. That was a bit of a rant, and I got lost like 3,000 times there, so apologies. Oh, you saw Circle. Could have gone much farther, yeah. It was okay, obviously. It's Always Sunny. I have not seen It's Always Sunny. I've seen a few clips, and from what I've seen, it seems like a really funny show. But I couldn't make a fair judgment on it, because I really haven't seen enough of it. The title, though, reminded me of, I always hate saying the title of this movie because it just seems overwrought in how long it is, but It's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I know, really dumb connection. Literally no connection at all aside from Sunny and Sunshine, but it brought it to mind since we're talking movies. That's one movie that I really love. And kind of similarly dealing with relationships, although on a more like, you know, oh god. On a more mental sort of level. I really like that movie and how it interpreted memories and dreams and all that. Really, really good one. But Charlie Kaufman, who directed that, I really enjoy a lot of his stuff. Schenectady, New York. Schenectady was hard to watch. Like, I'll say that, but I also feel like it's one worth recommending because it is it's another genuine kind of emotional movie, and I feel like that's what Charlie Kaufman is really good at. Even what I've been hearing about Anomalisa is like, that is what he does. He likes doing movies that are kind of deal with things that a lot of us deal with, at least on a introspective level. I think the thing is, films like that definitely have this element of like, you know, there's this optimal representation of how we view all of these things, and, you know, how to portray them in film form to keep, you know, our interpretation of them eloquent and all that. It's certainly a lot messier when you kind of look at the same situations in real life. So you kind of have to distance them in some way on that level, but at the same time, like, I think it's more important what a movie's trying to say about our emotions and our experiences rather than, you know, so much, you know, exactly in what manner it portrays them. Because I think a lot of movies will always kind of be a little bit more larger than life, might not be the right term, but like, they either skew things or things seem a little bit too optimal. There's another movie I saw I really liked, Away We Go. I saw that with Ali years ago, and it's been a really long time. I need to watch that again, because I need to see if like it still holds up. But back when we saw it, was one of my favorite movies, and I have it on DVD. Like, it's one of the few movies I have a physical copy of instead of just watching on Netflix. But it's just kind of this couple. The wife gets pregnant, and they're going around seeing all of these, either, you know, friends of family or different connections throughout their lives, college friends and all that, and seeing how these people raise their kids and like worrying about becoming good parents themselves. And I feel like, granted, it does hold up, and I feel like the relationship between the two characters is really like nice, and seeing all these other families who are kind of a mess with how they raise their kids, either coddling them too much or just very kind of obnoxious as a whole, and thus their kids end up pretty obnoxious as well. Like, it's another movie where definitely, like, I think a lot of critics when it came out, like, people either really enjoyed it or they thought that it was too, you know, these characters are too perfect, you know, they live in a perfect world. But I think it was more the idea that they're worried about, you know, failing their children, you know, not raising their kids the right way to be, you know, as good as they can be and all that, and wanting to seek guidance, but then seeing, you know, no parents really know exactly what they're doing. They kind of slot into something they feel works, and it kind of happens. And, you know, from the perspective of a couple with a baby on the way, it's like, I feel like it would be a good movie to watch. You know, like, obviously Allie and I were not even, well, soon to be engaged, I'll say that. But we haven't even gotten to, you know, planning getting married. I'm still getting through college, and Allie's still working on getting together like a business with her old roommate. They want to do like a food truck so that they can, you know, get those culinary muscles working and all that. But yeah, so that's definitely well and far away. That's well off into the future, but I feel like that's a really good movie. I'd like to watch again sometime. But yeah, I guess those are the kinds of movies I like. I do also like, you know, I don't just like kind of drama or like movies like that that are kind of, I wouldn't even call those romantic comedies because I feel like that's almost a derogatory term in movies. They aren't like that, you know. They don't play off like a romantic comedy, but they're more just, I don't know. Things on life. Oh my god, these spiders are literally the worst. Alright, we're gonna bum rush this and try and kill the bell ringer who's spawning these horrible creatures as fast as possible. But yeah, like, aside from these very emotional movies, like Blade Runner is definitely one of my favorites. Well, I still watch that a lot today. It's like, that is really one of the movies that lends itself really well to just coming back to it every once in a while. Largely because just the world that it crafted is so... I don't know. I feel like it just has this amazing kind of realness to it. Like, realness in a weird way because, you know, you have these giant plumes of fire shooting out of, like, New Los Angeles or wherever. I forget the exact name of the city that it takes place in, but... Neo Kobe City. But, yeah, Blade Runner I really enjoy. It's one sci-fi movie I can always come back to, and I love watching those scenes panning over the city, or just very kind of ambient moments where like this car is hovering over like all these billboards, or just people walking through a crowd with these weird neon stick umbrellas. It's so strange, but it's just one of those worlds that you'd love to inject yourself into and walk around in, you know? That's why I wish there were more, like, video games based on that sort of feel and that sort of look. Definitely one of my favorite Ridley Scott movies. That is Ridley Scott, right? Yeah, that's definitely Ridley Scott. I'm questioning myself. That's one of my favorite movies of that guy who I hope is the director. Yeah. Oh. $223. Hopefully we'll wrap this up soon. I'm praying this is only a 3-level dungeon. 3-level dungeons are about all I can take. When it gets like 4, I don't think there's any 5-level ones. I think 4 is really the deepest it gets, and I think that's only in the last one, like through Marrow Hill. So, ow, get out of here. Mirror's Edge, yeah. The bloom on Mirror's Edge. This perfect pure white buildings everywhere. That was a cool game though. Could have used some refinement in some parts, but I think it did what it was trying to do in a really interesting way. And I'm really happy that they're making a sequel now. I think they delayed it, maybe, I heard. Or maybe that was another game I was hearing about, but I do know that they're making a sequel to that, and that is one game that I think is definitely deserving of a sequel. You know, if they can pace, I guess, the direction right of, you know, I feel like the later levels got a little more confusing and like guiding you where you needed to go. There's this one part where you're running across like scaffoldings, and there's a helicopter chasing after you and shooting you constantly, and you're like running to avoid it and trying to build up speed so you can avoid it. But then you're also trying to do parkour on all these, like, in construction, you know, kind of side wooden panel platforms, and it's like, oh god, you know, you're just trying to figure out which way to go. That in itself is like a puzzle. So towards like the more high-speed feel of the game, that gets a little maybe at times, but the plot was also like, it was weird, and the animatics were weird too. I would have rather they just kind of focused on like the parkour-y stuff, because I feel like that's what you really come for, is like, this is cool first-person parkour, even though first-person platforming rarely works, you know, as well as other types of platforming, but I think Mirror's Edge had some going, and with the whole runner's vision or whatever it was called, highlighting objects, like the aesthetic of the game using like very bold colors everywhere, that was really cool. It was a solid concept that they worked on. So seeing it get a sequel coming out is like, you rock it, guys. You know, hope they improve what they did in the first, and you know, it'll probably be a pretty awesome game. I remember the last quote unquote boss. You have to like destroy all these computers while guys are shooting at you. I think I played that on hard difficulty, and just like trying to get through that section was hellish. Just so many failed attempts. It just got monotonous and really frustrating. I think I spent like an hour and a half just trying to bust these computers and evade all these douchebags. So that was maybe a little less fun. Yeah. Crazy time. But there were also some really great moments, like, if I remember, I think it's like a shopping mall that you're in, and you're like evading what are essentially like mall security guards or whatever. Or the mall was like under construction, so that was kind of weird, but like, you get to the front part of the mall and you're jumping off all these walls, and there's a lot of vertical, like, aerial exploration. I thought that was really neat. There's another bit where you're like up on a building and you pick up a sniper rifle and you have to attack this convoy that's transporting, I forget who. It's like either a prisoner, like one of your fellow runners who got taken, or it was your sister, because I know your sister gets like framed for something at some point. So you have to like save her. That's basically the end plot that they get into. But yeah, you do that, and then like guys are after you, and you have to run down this hotel building. That got a little frustrating, because you had like SWAT team members attacking you. Again, playing on like normal difficulty wasn't horrible, but when you're playing on like hard and bullets are your worst enemies, oh, I'm getting frenzied. Yeah. It's the bad thing about having 99 spare insight on you. I'd get rid of them, but I kind of like having all that insight. I don't know. I guess I just enjoy being crazy. It makes me feel closer to the mushroom people. That was one thing I really would have loved. Or actually, you know what, I guess technically broccoli, becoming a broccoli person does give you that connection, but like, I wanted a proper covenant that like connected you to the kin of the cosmos. I would have been happier, honestly, if instead of becoming a broccoli head, you just straight up became a mushroom person. Because they give you like the floopy floppy dodges and all that, and I love that, but yeah. I wanted there to be more like NPC interaction with covenants. And basically the closest you got to that whatsoever was with the Vile Bloods, with I forget her name, Ariana? No, Ariana's the Lady of the Night, the Lady of Pleasure. Ariadne? No, I'm just getting into Greek mythos or something. Not Ariadne, not... yeah. Annalise, Queen of the Vile Bloods, that's her name. Oh, you got it, yeah. I said it right as you put it, I swear. I didn't read chat, despite the delay. But thank you. If I hadn't have thought of it, you would have kept me from wondering for like another half an hour, as I usually do. But yeah, Annalise the Vile Blood, she really came closest to having any sort of like relevant connection. And even then, like there was so little progression in any of the covenants. It was weird because I feel like Dark Souls 2 was way, way, way too demanding with some of the covenants. Like, oh boy. Like, looking at the Blue Sentinels and the Brotherhood of Blood, I feel like there was just way too much they expected of you to max out those covenants. It really wasn't fair to people who weren't good at PvP or who didn't want to spend all that time, because there really was no offline alternative. You just had to do a lot of PvP to max those out, even though the Covenant rewards were just like ring +3 that has like, you know, no value to it really. It's just a slightly upgraded version of an existing ring. You know what it does, it's just better slightly. So I thought that was kind of dumb. What else? But yeah, then you get to Bloodborne, and as amazing as this game is as a concise, kind of compact designed game, I love the boss fights, I love the world, I love a lot of the lore. The characters really faltered, and the covenants as well. There just wasn't enough time, I guess, spent on them. It was able to be spent on them, really. Let's see who we're fighting. Looks like Ibrietas. Sweet. End off the night on a good fight. Oh, and look at this. This is a beautiful arena. Oh, good way to start off the fight. Charge attack. I got lucky on that. I wasn't really prepared. This is also one I'll run in for a shot or two with. But usually all of her swipes I'll ignore. I'll just stay right about here and wait for her to do this exact thing. And then I wail. Just wail away on her. If she does another, maybe try and get another shot or two if I can. Really, it's the second phase where things get a little more frustrating. Because she starts just spamming her spit blood attack a lot, like this one. Ow. And that kills you with Frenzy. Frenzy's not particularly fun. Oh god. Fuck! Oh well. Yeah. And that's not to say there weren't good NPCs, or good quest line progression, I guess. It was a little lacking. Well, fairly lacking. And I don't think the DLC really fixed that. I think it increased the interest of the lore because you got a lot of different perspectives and a different angle on like all this stuff that happened with the first hunters and the connection between, you know, Gehrman, the Healing Church, the Vile Bloods, and all this stuff. Like, Maria was a really cool addition. The Orphan of Kos was an incredible addition. Seeing Ludwig in like this form that he's become and his connection to the Healing Church, those were all really cool aspects of the game. And I love the fishing hamlet. Fishing hamlet as an area was really just a cool design, and I was glad to be able to kind of explore that sort of place, because that was really the one environment as far as Lovecraftian inspiration that Bloodborne needed, was kind of its own Innsmouth. And it maybe didn't do, like, you know, the Innsmouth look. It didn't have the subtlety, obviously, of a Lovecraft story, because you're kind of dealing with fairly larger odds than, you know, town full of, like, kind of corrupt dealings and that sort of thing. It's more like town that worships a fish god and became fish people. It's like, you know, it's a little closer to Dagon maybe than Innsmouth, but it is a fishing hamlet, so, you know, in its own proper way, it is sort of, I guess, you know, Innsmouthy. Ow. Oh, I didn't get far enough away that time. Yeah. I mean, despite what I was saying earlier, staying at the mid-range, like, this boss definitely has its frustrations. Especially on New Game Plus when you get one shot by that charged attack, like, you cannot make that mistake, period. So you kind of have to react in time and, not be dumb like me. I think it's more dodging, like, I dodge to the right twice, I think is what usually gets me through that. But it's not always 100% consistent. Sometimes I feel like I did what I need to do to dodge and she still hits me. I think it's kind of interesting, Ibriadus's design. I feel like she's got a little bit of Cthulhu, a little bit of the Race of Yith, and then I guess the gargoyle wings are also fairly Cthulhu, because he did have kind of these Cthulhu-y wings. I don't know. I love this design. Ibriadus is an incredible boss design. There we go. Managed to dodge at that time. But this boss fight can either be very quick if she uses a lot of the headbutt for me, or it can end up being very slow, because I like making sure that I'm hitting her with her weakness, which is the head, and you can always, you know, toss a couple projectile items and that always helps. Ow. I'm really damn clumsy, I apologize. Let's not get hit by that this time. I almost never get hit by that. It was really surprising that I let myself get hit by it. Not once, but twice. Let alone letting one of those hits be a killing blow. That was very embarrassing. Maybe that's it. I don't know if I just dodge twice or if I just wait until she's close enough and then dodge, and usually she can't, like, overcorrect to hit me or whatever. It has been a while, I have to admit, so I don't remember exactly what my sweet tips and tricks would be. Oh. Well, let's get a free shot anyways, while we're in here, before the aura of death. See, we were playing the challenge route for the old Iron King DLC, Dark Souls 2, when I was playing Dark Souls 2 a little while back. And it was so frustrating how you have to stay and hit him with melee all that time. But, like, you know, it does so much damage buildup in that fight, and he has such a huge health pool. I feel like it's so much more acceptable in Ibriadus's case, because you've spent a lot of her fight at this comfortable mid-range. Do you see this? This is what I was talking about. Right now, the music just, like, peaked, and she did that attack. She did a Call Beyond. And I feel like almost every time I fight her, when I get to that part of the song, she does that exact attack. They must have done something that she's either timed at a certain moment to start doing that, or I don't even know, but I think that's incredible however they did it, or even if they did it, just the fact that it lines up so perfectly with the music. Definitely, like, my favorite aspect of this fight. And see, you know, like, the second time it's maybe not perfect, but that first time she does it, I always notice it's right at that right moment of the fight. I really, like, I'd love to talk to the sound guy or all the people who designed this fight and be like, did you do that on purpose? Like, was that just a really happy accident that happens to me all the time, or I don't know. I'd hope it would be. I'd find it, like, infinitely impressive if that was really, like, what they were meaning to do and they got it to work. Nice. That's something I'll say I appreciate about the DLC, is that it had a lot of these projectiles that are kind of simple and cheap to use. Or, well, the Accursed Brew isn't that cheap. It takes, like, an investment of at least 30 Arcane. But it scales really well with Arcane, so it's like a really solid yet slow... It's like a firebomb that works off of your Quicksilver bullets. and I feel like it's a really nice option to have for an arcane build. I think that really the DLC just gave a lot of nice opportunities for arcane builds. But anyways, yeah, the fact that you're at mid-range and the fact that the only times that you really need to do damage to her, you do a lot of damage because you're hitting her weak point in her head, at least the way that I fight her. I feel like it's all designed around kind of leading you down that one line of offense, is like staying at a comfortable position to dodge her attacks or be able to run in when she does something that takes a long time to recover from, and taking advantage of that and hitting her weak point. Or you can get a little greedy here and there and, you know, throw the Accursed Bruise, the Black Skies, or just if you have a lot of blood tinge, just shoot her in the face with some Bone Ash bullets or a Bone Ash cannon. Oh god, Bone Ash cannon. But yeah. So, that was a little Chalice Dungeon action for the night. I hope whoever's still watching enjoyed. I think that's just you, Peculiar Kindler, so thanks for spending the night with me and keeping me company. I don't know if I'm going to do more Bloodborne streams, but if I do, you know, figure out something to do. I still haven't finished all of the optional bosses. I actually haven't fought Ibrietas on Commissar Clar, who is my one character who wears the commissar or the constable outfit. She's in the Impure Oath Covenant, and yeah, I'm using the Whirligig Saw on her, and it's been pretty fun to use. It's basically my God, what's his name? Bloodborne Solaire. Bloodborne Vermin Valter. That's his name, Valter. Something really funny about Valter is when you see him without his helmet, if you know, you take his helmet and become like the new master of the Impure Oath and all that, hunting vermin, he loses it when you summon him wherever you end up summoning him in the DLC. And he looks like a very kind of like wimpy, like metal hairband or whatever. He just kind of looks that way. He's got like this little peach fuzz going on, then he's got like this beautiful head of hair, and it's like he doesn't look at all how he sounds. He looks very kind of like gentle and like a little sad, like his eyebrows kind of curve up and his eyes are kind of looking off in the distance. But anyways, yeah, it's pretty silly. So I think I'll end off the stream. I'm just gonna take a sit next to Mother Koss. So take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good night. No, actually this is kind of gross and slimy, and I don't really want to sit near a fish carcass. It's just weird. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm gonna go somewhere else. I don't know where. I'll find some place. You know what? You know what? No. I'll make a compromise. I'm gonna sit with all the worshippers. I'm gonna sit with all of them, and I'm just gonna pray to Mother Koss. Yeah, that's you know, admire from afar. I think it's a little more reasonable. There we go. Perfect. Alright. Night, guys.